Welcome to What's What with Heather Harris, the podcast for the fiercely hopeful. Here, we explore the lesser-known innovations, overlooked ideas, and hidden forces quietly shaping our human experience. I'm your host, Heather Harris. Let's find out what's what. Today, we're talking about something tender, complicated, and incredibly important. What it means to parent a child with different abilities in the world today. UNICEF estimates that almost 240 million children are living with disabilities worldwide, nearly 1 in 10. Many still face stigma, physical barriers, and patchy access to services that should be afforded to these children as basic human rights. Inclusion is uneven, often depending on the country, the type of disability, and the resources available. And behind every one of these children is a family. Parents who are juggling medical appointments, therapies, school meetings, and of course, they are the number one advocates for their own children. All this while often working, raising other kids, and trying to hold on to their own physical and mental health. Research shows that parents of children with disabilities are more likely to experience fatigue, sleep problems, pain, anxiety, and depression, and also to feel more isolated. In North America, families of disabled children are almost twice as likely to report financial hardship as other families, especially when it comes to medical bills and care. And yet, this is not a story of struggle. It's also a story of creativity and fierce love. It's about holding space for conversations about inclusive education, disability rights, and supportive policy design. And this is where we meet my guest today. Dana Chapman is a former elementary school teacher, a yoga instructor, and a small business owner. She's also the mother of a child who is blind. In our conversation, Dana shares what it was like to receive her child's diagnosis, how her imagined story of motherhood shifted, and how she adapted to the everyday realities of advocating for accessibility, community, and dignity for her child. Together, we explore how to hold grief and gratitude, acceptance and hope all at the same time, and what she wishes teachers, neighbors, and policymakers truly understood. If you're a parent, a caregiver, an educator, or simply someone who wants to show up more compassionately in a world where not everyone gets the same starting line, this episode is for you. So take a breath, soften your shoulders, feel your feet on the floor, and let yourself arrive in this conversation with Dana Chapman.
Thanks so much for having me.
It's a real pleasure. Why don't we start with a little bit about your background and the years that led up to the moment that Nate came into your life?
Okay, well, I grew up in Belleville, a couple hours outside of Toronto, and I moved to Toronto to do my teacher's college year. So after I'd done my undergrad, and I'd intended to come here for 1 year and then leave Toronto. But 25 years later, here
you are.
Yeah. So I did my teacher's college, and then I ended up getting hired in Toronto to teach kindergarten, which was funny because that was not what I was qualified for. I was qualified to teach older kids.
Okay.
So my first year teaching, I had 32 4 and 5-year-olds, and I'd never ever spent time with 4 or 5-year-olds. So it was a super steep learning curve, but I really ended up liking it, and I liked working with the younger kids. So that's how I spent the first few years of my teaching career, and then I took a year to go do my master's out west. So I got to spend the year at UBC, which was great. And while I was out there, I mean, this is the 2000s, right? So yoga was in its heyday.
Mm-hmm.
And in Vancouver, it was like sushi restaurant, coffee shop, yoga studio, sushi restaurant, it was just everywhere. And so I got to try a lot of stuff while I was out there and really fell in love with it. It always had been part of what I did, like what I was interested in, but that was the year it really took root. And I came back and did a certification in kids yoga
Oh,
because I
okay.
thought it would be interesting to bring it in to my classroom.
Mm-hmm.
So that became really interesting and impactful, I think, and added a whole layer to teaching that I think really made a difference. It certainly made a difference to me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and in my enjoyment of the job and also the kids who were with me those years.
Particularly with the younger kids, you don't really necessarily connect that kind of practice with a younger child, but especially in a classroom with 32 kids under the age of 6, that sort of level of mindfulness might actually be something that's really productive.
Yeah, just giving them the experience of like some quiet and some peace, like the alternative to what schools often are.
Yeah.
And I think it helps regulate the teacher as well, which then just, of course, creates a better environment in the classroom. At so many layers, it's helpful. Yeah, and then I got my, adult qualifications to teach yoga and meditation while I was working, and I ultimately went part time to build that up, and then ultimately went full time, having my own business, which was really exciting. It kind of blended what I loved about teaching because I created trainings and workshops for teachers to share yoga and mindfulness with their students.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, it kind of blended both worlds really beautifully. And then about 4 years after that, I had Nate.
And then you had Nate. So you had all these beautiful experiences and earning credentials that actually probably, well, we'll find out if you put them into practice in raising your beautiful Nate. So why don't you tell us a little bit about him?
So Nate, yeah, was born in 2018. He's 7 now, and he is and always has been like the happiest human that I know. He's so sweet. Even when I was pregnant, I was like, I loved being pregnant with this kid. I didn't know who it was, right? But I'm like, this person, whoever he is, has the best energy. And I knew it wasn't mine. He was just so enjoyable to be with and still is. So it was a very like as births go, a really straightforward, easy birth. And at the 24-hour check that they do in the hospitals here, they noticed a couple of things, including a heart murmur. So
Okay.
we were followed, and at about 4 weeks, we were sent to a cardiologist to check that. And she's like, the heart murmur is cleared, but I found something else. So we're going to send you to sick kids. Well, in Toronto, it's called the Hospital for Sick Children if you don't live in Toronto. And we all call it sick kids, which is a strange name. But anyway,
Yeah, it kind of is a strange name, actually, on reflection. Yeah.
yeah. So we get sent to sick kids and they do an echocardiogram. And, we get that moment where everyone's going home for the day and they say, we're just going to have a doctor come down and talk to you. So a doctor
That's
comes
scary.
down. Yeah, he was about 4 weeks at this point. And he explains to us that he has something called a heart coarctation. So it's like a constriction in the aorta. And it's possible it would clear on its own, but more likely it would need an intervention and possibly surgery.
Okay.
And so we get sent home saying, watch him. And if his breathing changes or, his heart rate or anything changes, bring him back.
Mm-hmm. That's terrifying for new parents.
Yeah. You're
Yeah.
already sort of on edge and exhausted and not knowing what weighs up. So that was at about 4 weeks. So we spent about 4 weeks just kind of watching him and monitoring him. And then it became evident that his breathing or something had changed. This was a Monday. He'd just been checked on the Friday, and And then I said to my husband, I think something's different.
Okay.
But you're second guessing yourself and
Well, it's all new too, right? This is
yeah,
a
what's
brand new
normal?
experience for both of you. Yeah.
Totally. And then I got a call from a woman who she was sort of a spiritual teacher, and I'd done some work with her
Mm-hmm.
leading up to getting pregnant and when I was pregnant. And she's sort of taken it on herself to keep an eye on us.
Okay.
Whatever that meant, I was like, great, whatever. The more support, the
Yeah.
better.
Yeah.
And she called me that day out of nowhere and said, I think you need to take Nate to the hospital.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did she have any of the backstory at this point?
I don't think so. I don't know how much I would have been in touch with her in those initial days.
Yeah.
Because she was kind of a peripheral
Right.
person in my world.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
so anyway, whatever that was, it was sort of the catalyst to be assertive and call. And we took him down and they admitted him that day and they did surgery 2 days later.
Oh my gosh. That is a whirlwind and a scary one. I mean, this is heart surgery
Yeah,
on your tiny, tiny little newborn.
so little.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're just getting to know him. And yeah, it's such a bizarre experience.
Did you feel helpless when he was in surgery? Like, what did you
I
feel
think I
like then?
dissociated, to be honest. I think
Okay.
I have like certain memories of it. Because it's just too incomprehensible, like what's happening.
Yeah.
And you have to, like, you take your baby down to the surgical ward and you hand him over to the nurses. And,
Yeah.
it's a super strange experience.
Yeah. The level of trust that you would have and hope, like some balance of those two.
Yeah, you have to step out of yourself almost and just trust the people that are taking care of him.
Yeah. Terrifying.
Yeah, but he came through it really well. Obviously you're followed up after heart surgery, and we were at an appointment a few weeks later, and they noticed something about his eyes were had a fair bit of movement, and so they sent us to neurology, and then they sent us to ophthalmology. And to make a long story short, we found out that he was blind when he was about 5 or 6 months old. That then led to more investigations, of course, and it turns out he had a congenital condition that the blindness was part of. The heart wasn't really explained by it.
Okay.
And he may or may not have big or small developmental challenges along with this condition.
So a lot of uncertainty.
Oh, yeah. That first year was just a whole bunch of news. It was a whole bunch of news. Then it was just living in this mystery of, okay, we don't know
How it's all going to turn
how
out.
it's all going to turn out, how this is going to go.
Yeah. And I imagine that most parents, all parents, don't really know how it's going to go, right? With their
No.
kids. But when you are faced with those challenges immediately in the very, very early, early days of your child's life, it just, it makes that uncertainty almost palpable,
Yeah.
right? It's a very real thing in your life.
I'll speak for myself. I'd never even met anyone who was blind.
Hmm.
So then you have all your preconceptions about what life will be like,
Hmm.
um, that get layered on. And it's only in growing together with this kid that some of those get lifted, some you just get used to living with,
Hmm.
some you can mitigate.
Right. It is, as you say, it's a really steep learning curve.
Yeah.
right? You're going to be learning about a whole new community, a whole new set of health issues, practical issues that you have to address and deal with head on. And then there's the entire emotional side that you touched on this, what you expect as you enter parenthood, and then how those expectations have to be shifted or adjusted or mitigated. So, can you pinpoint that moment? Was it the diagnosis of his blindness that things started to shift, or when did that happen for you?
When I think back to that year, there was three moments that like jump out at me as the kind of mom going through this. One was before his heart surgery, and I remember exactly where I was sitting. I'm actually looking at the chair now, sitting in my living room, and I was nursing him, and I knew heart surgery was on the table at that point.
Yeah.
And I remember this, like, I don't know if I can describe it. It was sort of this wave of courage or intense vulnerability. I'm not sure what it was, of like a decision that I don't know what's going to happen with this baby, but I'm going to love him with my entire heart. And that felt like such a brave thing.
That brings tears to my eyes.
Yeah, that was a really powerful moment. And the second one was in the hospital before his heart surgery. So the night before, you have to like clean and use these soaps and things on your baby to get them ready for the surgery. So I remember standing there and washing him and knowing what I was preparing him for, and being both like grateful that I got to do it and it wasn't being done by an efficient nurse,
Yeah.
and thinking, how insane is this that I have to wash my baby to hand him over for surgery? Like the mother's being asked to do that.
Yeah.
Like both of those.
How difficult and beautiful.
Yeah. And that's a unique experience, thankfully.
Thankfully
Yeah.
for most mothers out there. Yeah.
And not a unique experience in the same sense. You're in the surgery waiting room, and in the day, there's probably hundreds of families that go through there. It's huge.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And the third moment was the first time it snowed after I had him. And I was standing we have big windows at the back. And I was standing there looking at how beautiful it was, those snowfalls. And I just got so sad and emotional that he would never see that.
Right.
And then I got him in a snowsuit and plopped him in the snow. And he just, it was still magical for him. He was just experiencing it differently than I was. And that was sort of a wake up moment of, oh, like beauty and this life can be experienced in so many ways. And maybe I need to take my lens off of it and start to learn from him.
Yeah. What a beautiful beginning,
Mm-hmm.
right? Of understanding that perspective that we all experience life in a different way, and beauty doesn't have to be compromised,
Yeah.
right? Beauty and enjoyment.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, moving through this world that is set up for people who have all of their senses, including sight, it presents challenges to those of us who may have different abilities. So, how do you balance personally those real and practical difficulties that Nate may face or has faced already in his 7 years of life with your hopes and dreams for his future?
I think we've always operated from the belief that he's capable, and that's how we act, and that's how we speak to him. We've always assumed he can understand us. So we keep our hope alive by believing in the best possibilities.
Right.
We're not naive, and you face little things every day. But on the practical stuff, like a lot of it you can figure out.
Mm-hmm.
If he's interested in something, we can figure out a way for him to participate
Right.
or learn something. A lot of things are harder. They just are harder when you don't have the visual input or you can't watch people do something.
Yeah.
So you get really creative.
Yeah. But it's not impossible.
It's not
You're
impossible.
finding ways.
Yeah, like when he was learning to crawl, most of the time you'd have a toy across the room or something to get your baby to come to you. And he could see light. He can see light. So we'd get these special lights, and we'd have them all over the house and put colors in front of them and things. So he would move towards the light.
It's a good example because for parents of typically developing kids, it's it is as easy as enticing them with a new toy or, something novel, but you have to think of it differently when he doesn't have that available to him.
There's a lot of skills that we really take for granted on how kids learn them because they learn them through watching their parents or other children. And it's also amazing how much is innate. Like,
Yeah.
that we're like, wow, he learned to pump his legs on a swing because that, I guess, is a natural movement.
You're kidding. I wouldn't think that would be an innate thing, but
Uh-huh. There's, there's surprises like that where you're like, oh, okay. But yeah, a lot of the day-to-day stuff is much harder and takes a lot longer to learn.
yeah, you
Yeah.
could just imagine.
Yeah, there's a level of patience required. Fortunately, we're both pretty patient people.
That's good. And creative people. So you're able to address these things kind of head on. So, kids who have different abilities, adults who have different abilities, are often viewed through a lens of deficit in some way, whether we're cognizant or if we're actually going to admit that to ourselves. If you could adjust that lens in society, how would you like kids like Nate to be seen?
I see them through like a lens of bravery, even though it's just their reality. This is how I'll speak for Nate or my sense of him. He came into the world this way, and this is his reality, and he's just living his life.
Mm-hmm.
When we're doing our thing at home, it doesn't even cross my mind that he's blind. Doing,
You're just living.
we're just living our life, and we've made adjustments so that we can do that, and he can do it easily. It's interesting because he can't see and I can, so I see the double looks with this little boy walking around with his white cane, or um, kids moving away. It's shocking to me how early that sense of otherness or difference
Mm-hmm.
kicks in, and that makes me sad.
Of
But
course.
then lots of people are really great about, or just normal about interacting with us.
Mm-hmm.
I had a really interesting experience a few weeks ago, well, a couple months ago now. Nate was running cross country, his cross country practice. So the way this works is they do laps around the schoolyard, and my husband is his sighted guide, so he has a tether to Dave, and they're doing their laps. And I came over a little bit late with his school stuff, and I was standing kind of in the middle, and there was a father and little boy. The dad was saying goodbye to his son, and the son was having trouble with that, and so they were talking, and he doesn't know who I am, but I knew the little boy was in Nate's class.
Okay.
And he starts talking to his son about Nate. Points him out and says, "That's Nate, your your friend from your class, you know that he's blind, right? And the kid's like, yeah, the little kids don't really understand
Yeah.
what any of this means.
Mm-hmm.
And the conversation went into this area of like, you know, when you're complaining about that you don't have the toy you want or that you don't have the dinner you want to eat or whatever, he's giving all these examples. You need to think about how lucky you are. And I still can't really articulate what it was for me listening to this because I got kind of teary. And I think it was that um, there was an element of pity, like you could have it so much worse.
Mm-hmm. And Nate was the example
Of worse.
being worse. Yeah.
Yeah. And I know that's probably not what who knows what he meant. But all that to say, I wish when people look at Nate, they see him how we do. Like I'm watching him run around the track and I'm thinking, they told us he might not be able to walk. And he's
Yes.
running a kilometer with this grade 2 peer.
Class. Yes, exactly.
And this is
It's
incredible.
remarkable.
Yeah. And it's so exciting. And it's so courageous of like lots of sighted kids wouldn't try something new like that.
Absolutely.
So I just felt like, wow, there's a whole piece of him. Like sometimes I think he's just the blind kid,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And yeah, he's a kid who's blind and he has so many other qualities. And I think that's what gets missed a lot with kids and adults with disabilities, unless you have the privilege to get to know them.
Yeah. And have the courage yourself to make the attempt to get to know them. Disabilities, whether they're visible or not, apparent or not, are not the defining feature of these people, children or adults. They are aspects of their reality that in fact exemplify their courage, as you say, and their resilience and their bravery to move in a world that is not necessarily that friendly to them. I don't know how I feel about how that conversation took place between the father and the son. I'm not sure that's the right message we need to be sharing with our kids.
No, and I offer it only as like a touchstone sort of for people talking to their kids of just checking how the conversation is happening. I'm thrilled the conversation was happening. We
Yeah.
sent information home to the families in his class about how you could discuss blindness and a little bit about Nate's experience. So, we want conversations to happen, but
There's an othering there.
yeah, there is.
And I
There
think
is.
that's what we have to work hard against or work
Yeah.
hard to eliminate somehow.
Yeah.
So, raising kids is isolating for most parents at some point or another. Do you think it's more isolating for parents who are raising kids with different abilities? Did you feel isolated in raising Nate in his early days?
Yeah, the early days are tricky because I think what gets missed a lot is when other parents of kids are going off to their baby swim classes and their baby music classes. And, I realize that's not everyone's reality, but, there's that sort of
Mm-hmm.
thing people do in the first several months of their kids' lives. And parents with kids with disabilities are often that busy, but at hospital appointments.
Yes.
So you're not building, like I have amazing friends who have been champs through this whole thing. And so the isolation was helped by that. But yeah, we spent a lot of our time that first year in doctor's appointments. And that's, if you have an outing or two a day, that's one of them.
Yeah, exactly. That's what you're doing. I think it would be difficult too to find in those baby classes
Yeah.
and music classes, you meet other parents who are going through the same thing that you are. And so you can find encouragement, you can find tips, you can this and that. But when you have a child with different challenges, it's harder to find other mothers, other parents who are experiencing the same things that you are.
Yeah, I would go once in a while to, we did do some music classes and things. And it was such a bizarre experience to me because of everything that was happening. And then listening to people who have every right to talk about like how stressed they are about the diaper rash or introducing solids and with this intensity. And I just couldn't relate.
Of course not. Your child has survived very well through a really traumatic surgery and, ongoing issues. And diaper rash was probably not high up on that list of
No, it
concerns,
really wasn't.
right? So that's a disconnect.
Yeah,
Even though, yes, of course, those are valid worries when you're a new parent,
totally.
it's a little bit of a different context.
Yeah, one of my friends who's also happens to be a therapist, she put it well. She's like, you're dealing with all the same stuff all parents are dealing with, like how to get your baby to sleep, how to get your kid to eat, all those things.
Mm-hmm.
And you're having like this really crazy outlier experience
Yeah.
of all these other things that most people don't have to think about.
And wouldn't think about.
No, I wouldn't have.
It's isolating in and of itself in that way, right? Just from
That's right.
the mainstream parenting experience. How did that translate when Nate entered school, when he started JK? Were there challenges there? Did you have anxieties about that?
I have never been so scared in my life. I truly mean it. And I'd handed my child over for heart surgery. Walking him to JK that first day was one of the hardest things I've ever done. And I think part of it was I'd worked in the system for so long. So I knew that this could go beautifully or it could go really terribly.
Yeah.
And I'm just picturing what it would feel like as a little tiny boy to be in this busy, these kindergarten rooms are just insane. The number of kids,
Chaotic. Yeah.
it's so poorly done right now. And not have the visual references to understand it
Mm-hmm.
and how that must be so overwhelming. I was putting all of this on him.
Mm-hmm.
He did have a hard time the first week or two, but he did it and he had beautiful supports in place for him through the blind low vision program. And there was a story that helped me so much that initial couple of weeks, and I can't even remember how it crossed my path at that time, but the story was about the University of Arizona built this biosphere like in the 90s, I think. And it was essentially an ecosystem that mimicked Earth and with trees and plants and everything. And everything was really going beautifully, except the trees would only grow to a certain point and then they'd fall over. And it took them a while to figure out what was happening, but they realized that they had discounted the importance of wind because there was no wind in this biosphere. And as it turns out, wind forces trees to adapt to stress and grow deeper roots and stronger bark and stronger wood. So I was like, okay, Nate is building his stress bark.
Yeah.
I'm
Yes.
like, okay, we want him to be in the world. We want him hopefully to be able to live a really happy, independent life, which means he can't be home with me all day.
You can't protect him from everything.
Right?
You need to put him in the path of the wind.
Yeah. And so I knew he wasn't distressed like he was managing, but it was hard and he did it.
And he did it. Successfully.
He did it successfully, and I did it successfully. I grew a lot of stress bark too. So that story was extremely helpful to me.
I love that. I love that imagery,
Yeah.
right? That we all need to be out in the world, be buffeted around to build our own stress bark, our own resilience. But it must have been amazing for you to watch. I mean, anxiety producing, I can't even imagine those first few weeks and, checking in every day to see if he's coping well. But to see him move through it and settle and thrive, it must have been.
Well, you start to realize how remarkable this little person is. And we have a kind of a mantra in our house of, I can handle it. So if it's a reasonable ask and it's, no one's stressing out too much, like, yeah, this is hard. It's not what I would choose to be doing right now, but I can handle it. And you can see that he's internalized that now as a 7-year-old.
That's something that people who have been on this earth for decades and decades have not yet been able to grasp.
Yeah, we hear him saying it to himself sometimes.
You do? So
Yeah,
you
which is,
literally say this mantra out
oh
loud.
yeah,
This has been
yeah,
part of the education and
yeah,
raising of Nate.
yeah.
And you hear him say it
We
to
hear him say
himself.
it to himself. It's
Oh
really
my
sweet.
God, that is so
Hmm.
heartwarming.
Yeah,
And also, as a parent, encouraging that he's self encouraging, you know,
yeah.
promoting his own confidence. That's amazing. Okay, so through all of this, we've touched a little bit on your own anxieties going through all of these really difficult obstacles and challenges. What does self care look like for you as Nate's mom?
Yeah, it's sort of evolved as we've gone. It didn't look like much of anything in the early
Yeah,
days, obviously.
survival
It
mode.
was
Yeah.
survival. I ended up getting sick with Graves' disease, which is a hyperthyroid condition of hypervigilance
Okay.
caused by stress. So that was definitely a wake up call of, okay, I need to take care of myself because
Mm-hmm.
obviously want to be around for as long as possible to support him. And yeah, it looks like for myself and our family, we don't overschedule ourselves. So there's like a rhythm to our day and our week. Um, and then when things do get busy, we can handle it. But we're pretty conscious of what we take on because Nate operates at like he can go out into the world and be in school all day and do those things, but he needs to come home to calm and a chance to settle his
Decompress.
nervous system. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
For me, yoga and meditation are kind of the foundational practices. I didn't do as much when he was really little. I had like a decade of practicing before that. And then I realized it's really difficult to wake up and instantly start parenting. So I started getting up an hour before him. And fortunately, he sleeps well. So, I
You were
wasn't.
lucky that way. Yeah.
So, yeah. So I still now I get up at 6 and I do my practice and just um, have some quiet time for myself so that I can be really at my best for him.
Mm-hmm.
And I walk, I spend time with my friends. If I'm really in my head, I listen to like an audiobook or watch the Raptors or whatever it is
Yeah.
that
Okay.
kind of keeps.
Distract.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in general, I think it's my yoga practice for sure that's been the most grounding.
Mm-hmm. And it sets the tone for
Yeah.
the day. I mean, not everybody is an early bird, but I think if you can build something like that into your daily routine, particularly if your stress levels are consistently high, it can be so helpful just to bring a little space into your life.
And as my husband says, who does, does his own thing. Like it's really nice to early in the morning to have done something for yourself. Then it's easier to give.
It's easier to give. Wow, that's a lesson for everybody to hear. It's easier to give when you've done something for yourself.
Yeah.
Particularly, maybe as parents, we discount that, the importance of that. We think our worth and our value lies in what we give to others without considering how much value it is to support ourselves too.
Yeah, and I think we want our kids to see that there's value in that. Even simple things like I've always said to Nate, you know, everyone in this house deserves to sit down and eat their meal. Like
Yes.
I should get to sit down and eat my breakfast. So no, I can't do X, Y, or Z right now.
Yeah, everybody deserves the time for themselves.
Yeah, and to do the basic of human care.
Sitting down for breakfast pretty much it should be a right. Parenting Nate, has it reshaped your sense of yourself, not just as a mom, but as a friend, as a woman, as
It's made me realize I can handle more than I thought. Oh,
Mhm.
I don't know if we actually think about what we can handle, but
No.
um, as an anxious person throughout my life, I think I always imagine, I have a really good imagination. I never imagined any of this, but we handled it. We're handling it. So there's some kind of toughness and confidence that comes from that. I think I'm a better friend. I think I'm a better friend. You know, I'm 50 now. It's that. So most of my friends are around that age. And a lot of stuff happens at this phase of life.
It does.
So I think going through, especially those early years with Nate, and just sort of knowing what I needed and seeing how people showed up and learning from them and that experience, I think for my inner circle, I think I show up and have the capacity to like be in hard situations with people.
Yeah. And it's difficult. I mean, I just recently, one of my friends lost their parents, and it's interesting to watch who does show up and who really can't face it or finds it so awkward and uncomfortable to be with people in those harder moments in life. But when you do get to midlife, those harder moments seem to come much more frequently,
Yeah,
right? We're all dealing with something.
absolutely. Or someone really close to us is.
Yeah, that's interesting that this experience is translated into being a better friend in
I
your own
think
eyes.
so.
Yeah,
I think
that's
so. And you
lovely.
realize, when people are having these really hard things, they often they just want normalcy and company. Like some of my best visits in those days was when someone I loved and cared about showed up and told me what was happening at school, where I used to work, or was telling me funny stories about their teenagers. Sometimes it's the big heart to hearts, but often it's just you're here with me and I appreciate it so much.
Yeah. And the thing is, I think, is that these experiences that you've been through, that is normalcy. All the hardships of life, that is
Yeah,
normalcy, right?
exactly. Yeah.
So when your friend comes over and talks about, what's the silliness at school or whatever it is all part of the same thing. It's the happy experiences, the hard experiences, and just moving through it all together.
Yeah, I think that's a thing you learn at this stage of life, isn't it? That it's all happening at once. In the summer, we went to a concert. We saw Mumford and Sons in Toronto at an outdoor venue, and it was like this incredibly stunning, perfect night. You're under the stars, and the music's incredible, and there's thousands of people. And we were in that. And my best friend had just been diagnosed with cancer, and we were waiting for a test result for Nate and like all these other things. And it was one of those moments where I'm like, wow, this is all happening at the same time. And that's actually what is always happening at the same time. We just are in a bit of a denial, I think, or we just don't know when we're younger.
We don't know when we're younger, but I think even when we're older, a lot of people, we resist those hard things. We resist that understanding that it is all happening at once. We are, I think, sold a bill of goods that we should be happy and in when I say happy, like that pure happiness where nothing's going wrong. It's not, it isn't the reality. It is all happening at once. The acceptance of that can allow a little bit more ease.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a whole mind shift when, for myself, like going through my, 20s and 30s, where by and large I would do what I needed to do. And when things were tricky or hard, I'd get through it and then I'd feel okay. Like, okay, I had to get this hard thing done and then I can feel okay. And that actually worked okay. And then when I had Nate, it was like, oh, there's going to be a constant, and I think probably all parents feel this way. Now there's a constant level of stress that I need to learn to metabolize and hold in this bigger picture of all the good stuff that's still happening. Well,
there's no start and stop though.
no,
I know exactly what you're talking about. Like, oh my gosh, I have this big presentation I have to give
yeah,
in front of 30 people. And once I get past that, then I will be able to live life and be happy and joyful once
exactly.
again. Life is not like that. It is a constant management of the tough stuff and the moments of joy, right?
Yeah.
So, for parents who have received a diagnosis for their kids, whatever it is, something that it could be a long term, something chronic, something that can be managed through an intervention,
Mm-hmm.
but they're feeling scared and overwhelmed, particularly in that space of gray, that
Yeah.
that time of really acute anxiety and uncertainty. Do you have anything that you would like to share with them?
Yeah, I mean, my heart just goes out to that stage, right? So you'll spend all kinds of time in doctors' offices and you'll meet doctors who are so kind and compassionate, and you'll meet doctors who you hope you never have to see again in your entire life. And I think initially, and they are absolutely the experts, but you're also the expert on your own kid. And as they grow, you're going to become even more so. So it's like take in what they say and also follow your gut and your intuition. I've sat in doctors' offices and said, Nate can see some colors. And they say, there's absolutely no way he can see color. I'm like, well, I don't know what to tell you because when he holds up an object and tells me what color it is, you know,
Yeah.
um, so it's kind of like, okay, I go into these appointments now. I take in what I need to keep my kids safe and developing well, and I let go of the other stuff and don't let them set the expectations of where this kid can go. Like we always believed in the possibility of his development, right?
Yeah. That is critically important.
And by the same token, like and this took me a long time, let go of the developmental milestones as much as you can. I think
Hmm.
our just where we live and how kids are raised and taught, like these what kids should be able to do at certain ages is kind of it's a really trusted model. And it can cause you a lot of stress when your child's not meeting those milestones.
Yeah.
And Nate never did meet them on time. But he always, like, I always ask, okay, is he learning? Undeniably. Has he plateaued? No, it's at its own pace, but it's for sure an upward trajectory. Then we look for the next right thing to challenge him and to challenge his growth. We had a therapist in the early days who was helping him when he was trying to learn to walk. And she said to me, if he learns this like next week or at 2.5 or at 3, he'll then have 80 years to walk.
Oh, yes. That's a good way of looking at
It
it.
really was. I'm like, oh, yes. Yeah, he will. You're right.
Yeah. It doesn't matter if it's 6 months, 10 months, 18 months, 5 years.
Yeah.
The skills will come when they come, and we have to let go of these fairly arbitrary deadlines for the average,
Yeah.
right? It doesn't apply to everybody, even children who don't have any known or tangible challenges. It's all a spectrum, it's all a continuum of learning and growth and adaptation. But one thing I want to go back to that you said was that don't allow anybody else to set your expectations of who this child will be, how this child will grow, what the outcome of this child's development will be, because sky's the limit.
Yeah. And I'd say you have to get comfortable with sort of living in the mystery, and you need to build your own team. You
Mm,
need to find the people, like go to the medical appointments, take the medicine you need to take, whatever it is,
yeah,
but then find the people that between those appointments only see the potential in your kid.
yeah,
We've worked with physios and osteopaths, and my favorite therapy is called the Net Benile method, ABM, and it's all about helping a child organize themselves to meet their potential. And any practitioner I stick with, it's because they only see what Nate is capable of.
yeah.
That's the only conversation that happens in that room. So I leave feeling good, he leaves feeling good, and those are the people I want around him as much as possible.
Absolutely, so that he can reach his potential. If we dampen our expectations of others, well, how much can they achieve? Okay, so we're going to take a little bit of a different tangent now. We're going to talk about the love wrap. Okay. You have to tell our listeners about this beautiful product and maybe the origin story. Where did the idea come from?
So the love wrap is sort of like a big cozy cardigan, I guess. Like it kind of just wraps around someone, and it has a giant heart on the back. And it came from two places. One was my friend's little daughter, who's so sensitive, commented on how it's just a lot to be in the world sometimes. Like,
Oh, yeah.
and I remember thinking, oh, it would be neat if she had like something just to wrap herself in when she's feeling overwhelmed to comfort herself.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started thinking about, well, what would I have wanted when I was living in the hospital with Nate, or at home by myself with him, and, in those days where you're really worried or you're missing your friends or whatever. Like, imagine if a friend had given me something that I just put on and it felt like they were kind of there, they had my back, you know? So I designed this love wrap, and I found a women run, really ethical company in Toronto that walks you through the whole process of designing something and the patterning and creating it. Last fall, we had them made, and we've sold about almost 150 now. It's been happening is really lovely. Like, people are giving them to their friends, when they have to go in for their chemo sessions, or new moms. I know a dad gave them to all the girls, like his wife and his daughter and daughter-in-law, at the end of his life. So they'd have big hugs from him when he passed.
Oh,
Like, really
that's beautiful.
beautiful stories. Because I think, when you're in the medical system or you're just dealing with something hard, a lot of it you just have to do, right? You just have to do it
Yeah.
yourself. And hopefully you have really amazing people around you like I do, but ultimately I'm the one sleeping in the hospital with him, or
Yeah.
um especially around like when this was all happening, like post COVID, you really were restricted.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You just have to do it. So it was just a kind of a gesture of something people could offer, especially women could offer each other.
I love that. I love that. And it's available today
It
on
is.
your
I'm
website.
running out of sizes, but it is.
Okay, we'll get them now before they run out altogether.
Yeah.
So what gives you hope right now for Nate, but also how we as a society can evolve to better support children like Nate, adults like Nate in our lives?
What gives me hope? So many things. The kindness of strangers really gives me hope. Like we live in Toronto. We're a couple of blocks from a busy street, young street, full of shops and businesses. And we've always just taken him out with us. So over the years, people have gotten to know him. And I think this is a remarkable thing to be able to say about living in Toronto in our neighborhood. I really think if he ended up on Yonge Street for some reason by himself, he would be cared for. I
Wow.
really think.
That's a statement to make about, living in the center of a big
Big
city.
city.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's because people have stopped us, they've talked to us, they've introduced their dogs, the shopkeepers. I mean, Nate loves going in and saying hi to them, so they've gotten used to him. So I'm really happy that we've built that, and that people overall are really kind and warm.
Yeah. Well, I mean, honestly, could we ask for anything more than that?
No,
Kindness in
yeah,
others.
kindness is and an ability to put yourself in another person's shoes. I think that is where a lot of work needs to happen. I think people get we all do it, right? We get caught up in our own stuff, and it's
Hmm.
hard to pull out and think, what would it actually be like to whatever it is? And a lovely, hopeful thing right now is a class at Nate's school. Some of the older kids are working on a project, kind of wondering what would a beautiful school sound like.
Wow.
Because I had said to the principal in the fall, I'm like, that would be an interesting inquiry because we spend a lot of time making schools beautiful and organized and visually, as we should. But like, what would a beautiful school sound like? And it's giving these kids a chance. I've had the chance to meet with them a couple of times, and it's giving them a chance just to step outside of themselves and imagine what it's like for someone else. And
Hmm.
the sound piece would benefit Nate, certainly. It'll benefit kids with autism or any sort
Hmm.
of neurodiversity where sensory stuff is an issue. But I think it's overlooked a lot and in these busy buildings. So that really gives me hope that these kids are seriously entertaining this question.
Hmm.
And yeah, music gives me so much hope when I see creative people doing their thing.
I know. It gives
Yeah,
me hope too. Music is a hopeful, creative exercise, isn't it? Whether you're doing it yourself or you're
taking it
witnessing
in.
someone else. Yeah, taking it in.
And they do a beautiful thing in Toronto at the Symphony. They have these performances a few times a year called relaxed performances. So it's where parents of kids with special needs can bring their kids to the symphony, and they can make noises, they can move around, they can eat snacks, but we all get to enjoy a real symphony. Like the full symphony is there, and the conductor's amazing, and it's an hour, the perfect amount of time. And the
Yeah.
first time I went, and Nate loves it. The first time I went, I just had tears in my eyes 'cause I'm like, wow, all these parents get to come into this beautiful building and listen to this
exceptional music.
And their kids get to be exposed to it. And it doesn't matter that your kid's making a strange sound or talking or needs to move. Your nervous system can relax
because there's room for everybody here.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. A lot to be hopeful for.
There's a lot to be hopeful for.
So where can our listeners find you, Dana? And perhaps the Love Wrap too.
Yeah, the loverap.com they can go to, which is connected to my website, danachapmanyoga.com.
Okay.
Those are the best places. I'm not really on social media much, so.
That's probably a good thing too.
It is.
For us all not to be on social media much. Yeah. Okay. Well, I will put those links in the show notes. And I just want to extend my heartfelt thanks for sharing your story today on our show.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you for joining me on What's What with Heather Harris. If you enjoyed this conversation, please follow, rate, and share the show. It helps others find their way here because the more the merrier. The future is something that we influence and imagine together. I'm Heather Harris, and until next time, stay curious and stay fiercely hopeful.